And so you make this decision to plead guilty. And Lucy, lots of people have said that was a huge mistake.
In hindsight, it was. And they have to remember that I didn't get remand. I didn't get bail. I'd been remanded. They made it quite clear they were not going to give me bail at any point.
So you're in jail?
So I'm in jail at this point, being told that I'm looking at 5 years, not really understanding how the system works, crying, thinking my daughter's going to be this age, my dog's going to be dead by the time I get home, I'm going to be this age, I'm going to prison for all this time.
And you have a solicitor advising you. I've got a solicitor
advising me to go guilty, to get my credit, to get time off. The discussions we'd had, I thought I'd have been looking at a lot lower sentence than what I did get. He also told me I'd be eligible for tag. I wasn't. And the conversation we had is you'd probably be home by Christmas. Go guilty now, you'll be home by Christmas. So in my mind, it got to the point where all I cared about was what is the quickest way home to my daughter and my family.
Yes. But instead, in that sentencing by the Recorder of Birmingham, it is quite clear that he is making a political point.
Absolutely.
You're an example. He talks about diversity in his summing up and actually ends up giving you, despite the fact that you've pleaded guilty, a 2.5-year sentence.
Yeah, and he said in the hearing, well, had you have gone to trial and been found guilty, you would have got 4 years something. So that's where I'm going to start from. And then I'm going to take your discount off. So actually, I didn't end up gaining anything by going guilty because all he did was add that 25% on before he took it off.
Do you regret pleading guilty?
Yes. Well, yes and no. Again, because I honestly believe had I gone not guilty, there's a strong possibility I would still be sitting in jail now waiting for a trial. Once they've remanded you, they're in no rush to put you through the system. Why would
Whereas
they? They
wanted to rush you through the system, didn't they? Because, all of these hearings were being televised and they wanted to show to other people, don't post. Don't post because you could be like Lucy Connolly. It was
all by design. All by design. They intentionally remanded people because it's very difficult then, isn't it, to get the best legal advice. And I know Ray was seeking alternative legal advice on the outside, and he was saying to me, please don't go guilty. If I could get you to sit around the table with these lawyers, you'd understand why. But that's the problem, isn't it? I couldn't go around and sit at the table with these lawyers, and they couldn't say, this is why it's not incitement. This is why you shouldn't go guilty. This is why it's this. Stand strong will get you out. But I don't know whether they would have done. I think my card was marked. I truly, truly believe it doesn't matter who I had representing me. What I pled, they were going to have.
You were Starmer's pin-up girl.
Yeah.
And he had made it clear that he expected the judiciary, I don't call it a justice system, by the way, I call it a judiciary. He had made it clear that you needed a lengthy sentence. So at that point,
Keir Starmer comes out of this looking less like a principled leader and more like a bitter political operator who used the courts to push his own agenda. Lucy Connolly wasn't just prosecuted, she was displayed as a warning, turned into a poster figure for Starmer's authoritarian streak. When a recorder in Birmingham openly admitted that the sentence considered diversity and used her as an example, it showed how little justice had to do with the decision. Instead of defending free expression and equal treatment, Starmer signaled to the judiciary that they should deliver harsh sentences to make a political point. That isn't leadership. That's weakness disguised as law and order. It proves Starmer's instinct isn't to defend the people, but to silence dissent and sacrifice individuals for his own small victories. In the end, he didn't strengthen the justice system, he turned it into his personal stage, and in doing so, disgraced the very office he claims to represent. British politics. Like this one, don't forget to like the video. And subscribe to Dark British. Believe it or not, over 98% of viewers watch our content without hitting the follow button. Subscribing is completely free.
Let's stay on this topic here on these asylum hotels, because of course this comes down to a technicality, doesn't it? That the fact this case was able to go forward in the first place, which is that these hotels' use case has changed. Now that is the law, that cannot happen, which is why this case has been won so far. And how are the government able to challenge that? Because if that's the case up and down the country, surely they've missed it's a big problem for them. But how are they able to challenge that underneath the law? Are they able to say, well, actually, we haven't got any other option, and therefore you must allow us to do this? What is the premise of their argument, Stephen?
Well, they're not a party to the case, so I don't understand why they think they've got a right to appeal. They will have to beg that from the Court of Appeal. I mean, if I was the Court of Appeal, I might tell them to trot on, quite frankly. They've got much bigger problems than this one injunction, so this is all rather symbolic nonsense. Because if you read the case, the judge explains quite clearly, councils have 4 years from when a hotel is filled with migrants. So take the migrant hotel down in Canary Wharf, which has only just been filled with migrants. That council has 4 years in which it can serve a stop notice. It doesn't need a court injunction. It can just shut the hotel down tomorrow. And I think councils across the land are going to come to this realization. I'm working with a group called Lawyers for Borders, which is set up by Robert Jenrick. And, we're trying, and other good people are trying to help. And this is not party political at all. Nobody wants to have a dangerous hotel anywhere near them, and nothing crystallises that more than the good people of Essex, who say that hotel is not dangerous, so they don't protest it. This hotel is dangerous, so they do. And that's the fundamental. And our government is at war with maths, Alex. Fundamentally. And that comes, I don't want to bore your listeners and viewers, but that comes from the way that they were educated. They really are subjectivists. They think that there is no objective reality, and that everything can just be changed by words and altering perception. But you can't. You literally can't go to war with maths. You can't go to war with objective reality. Ultimately, there are X number of hotel rooms. Ultimately, there are X number of HMO rooms. Ultimately, there are X number of buildings in this country. Ultimately, there's X number of tents. And then the migrants keep coming at this utterly ridiculous rate that they are now coming at. All of those numbers are going to be breached. And Dan Jarvis can't just sit there and say, well, by the end of the Parliament, we will probably have done something. I mean, that's also, I want your listeners and viewers to know that that's quite an arrogant statement, Alex, because Parliament could collapse tomorrow. It doesn't have a divine right to last for another few years.
Well, that's absolutely how democracy works, Stephen. Of course. I mean, again, just to give some balance here, the government would argue that not all these hotels are dangerous and that we need to have a balanced approach. But that's what they would argue. I'm sure many people on the left would also argue that there are many safe migrant hotels and not all of them are dangerous. But Stephen, I want to move on to this lawyers for borders, not without borders. I think you want lawyers for borders, and what the purpose of that is, and what are you organising? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, it's getting back this idea that there is such a thing as objective reality, that this subjectivism, this what we call postmodernism that our leaders are steeped in is just nonsense. But David Starkey told me that Dr. Johnson dealt with this problem by simply kicking a stone. And I've often, when people go into this subjective nonsense, I encourage them to run headfirst at a wall. And I tell them the wall is just subjective, so you'll probably be fine. We need to restore objective reality. On borders, my clothes are a border. We take off our clothes to be intimate with individuals as adults choose, but they are a border to other adults so that we don't do that. My front door with a lock on it is a border, and we need to restore our borders. In the first instance, what Lawyers for Borders is going to do is help councils. That's the obvious low-hanging fruit. It'll be encouraging them to